But I'll share this really quick because we all going to say a few words and then get to the workshop. I'm so thankful that Oscar was on my heart when he was, before he was murdered. And I texted him and I said, Uncle, love you, God loves your family. And of course, an hour and a half later after that text, he was murdered. And when I saw that video, I collapsed. And I can remember coming up, trying to make sense of things in an extreme rage. It is a blessing that I'm able to stand here today and not be in the other direction. Because that's how I wanted to go. It is a blessing that all of you are here and not just curled up in your bed or in your closet in so much pain, not knowing how to move forward. So it's our hope that this bonding helps empower us where we coin this idea of healing through resistance. In the process of creating a strong political movement to bring about the real legislation change that can help us. So we are honored that you're here. We're thankful that you've come, and come all the way to Oakland to be a part of this. So.
Good morning, family.
Good morning.
I recognize, some of you from Detroit last year when Families United for Justice had a good, productive conference, and I'm sure today will be also. What we want to do now and the task that I'm assigned, my name is Akabundu Amazu. I'm one of the board members for Love Not Blood campaign, as well as an organizer of the Central Committee for the All African Peoples Party. And I've been tasked with calling on our ancestors and for us to recognize that energy and doing a libation. A libation is an important part of our activities because we know that our history is long, our history is filled with a lot of struggle. And out of that history, our culture develops. And we want to make that stamp as African people on the struggle because we welcome other people. We're in solidarity with folks. But that revolutionary African personality has to stem from us. And it stems from us recognizing that history, recognizing our culture. And with the libation, it gives us an opportunity to express our heart, to express our love, to express our spirituality and our gathering. And we know that our people are of many different denominations, and that's beautiful, because that is also where we express our spirituality. But with this libation, it's an opportunity again to pay recognition. And we know that you came out here today with some new ancestors on your heart. We know that the work that we just have seen on the video, for us to be able to have this venue, came from some ancestors. Huey Newton, Little Bobby Hutton,
Yes.
Former members of the Black Panther Party, who struggled here in Oakland. And to be in the presence of this room that has been dedicated to them is also for us to recognize all of that struggle that has gone on with them. We know that your journeys here, your minds and your hearts were filled with memories, with expectations, with hopes. And so the libation is again to put a seal on that, to stamp that. It's also for some of us at a certain spiritual level to actually invite the ancestors in to join us. And whether you think they're sitting in the chair next to you doesn't matter, because we all know that they are in our hearts and in our minds. We would not be here on a Friday morning doing this work if it were not for what our ancestors have provided us with. Today is a special day also. One of our ancestors that we want to make sure is present is our brother Kwame Ture. It's his Earth Day. He would have been 77 today. Some of you know him as Stokely Carmichael. And in addition to becoming one of the foremost proponents of a slogan which we have to utilize and continue to build on, the slogan of Black Power. In addition to bringing us that, he also echoed and continues to echo in our minds and in our hearts the call for organize, organize, organize. Not just vote, 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 Organize, organize, organize. And with that, on this special day, we're going to symbolically, it's a white cup. We're going to symbolically use this as the earth that we walk on. And the water being the sacred fluid that it is, that makes up so much of our bodies, so much of the earth, that keeps us alive, will be the fluid that we utilize.
And we have the executive board members speak. And we've set up kind of like in regions, so not all the executive board members are here, but we decided last year that we'd create these regions, and then each region would reach out to families in their region and begin to share this word about this conference that we have, this network gathering, and we made it a point that we'll attempt to do this every year. And so it can only just get bigger. Thank you for clapping. Let me step back for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and let Oja to start.
How you doing? My name is Oja. Birth name is James Van Slum. Basically, we're really honored to be a part of this movement. My partner Vanessa here, myself, as well as Corinda. We're not actually family members. So we're not literally members of Families United for Justice. Only family members can be members of Families United for Justice. We are supporters of Families United for Justice. My personal journey in this struggle began when my friend Cornelius Davis was killed in St. Louis, Missouri in 2003 in cold blood by a police officer. Not knowing what to do with the energy, I joined the October 22nd Coalition and met a bunch of good folks. Long story short, the work now looks like the Forward Trajectory Project. We're going to talk about that in the workshop, but we use our skills as media artists. I'm a sound person, I'm a DJ, a producer, an oral historian. So we step back from our own personal artistic career, so to speak, to use our skills as citizens in this society to document and counter the narrative that's told by the mass media, to try to act as an amplifier for y'all, the family members, to tell your story directly and basically step out of the way to help the public know what's happening with y'all. So I'm really honored to be here. Love the Bay Area. It's beautiful to see everybody's faces. You guys are our inspiration and our heroes and our sheroes, you know, so I want y'all to give yourselves a hand. Thank you.
Peace and blessings, everyone. My name is Nisa. Oja mentioned we work together on the Force Trajectory Project, which we will be presenting here shortly. But first of all, I just wanted to ask folks where folks are from. So let's figure out. Over here, I know we have New York. So over here, New York, right? New York in the building. Who do we have over here in this section? Baltimore, Washington, Chicago. Who's, I missed somebody over here? Georgia. Okay, where else? San Diego. Atlanta. Detroit. Yes. San Jose. Sacramento. Orange County. Seattle. Okay. Seattle. Oakland. Where's Oakland? Everybody, a lot of people from Oakland, right? Okay, great. So that's what we're trying to, what's that? Oh, Stockton, my bad. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to, there's so many, I mean, you guys know, like at least 1,000 to 2,000 people per year are killed by police. I mean, this is just a blip. Like, who's here is a very, very small percentage of the families and the communities that are impacted by police violence. So, you know, we're here to empower families. We want families to rather than, like Uncle Bobby said, hiding away and wasting away because the pain is so deep and it's so traumatizing, to come out and get the community going, galvanize the community into action. So, you know, next year, we're hoping for 200, 300, 500, you know? So that's what we're trying to do here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making that. You need a question?
Yeah, you get a question. Anyone that doesn't care about the photo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so at registration, we had a consent form that folks were supposed to sign. Is there anyone here that does not want to be documented? Raise your hand, and we'll give you a sticker, or filmed, or audio recorded. Anyone? Everyone's in? Ms. Carol, can you come up to say a few words about Cynthia? So we have Carol Gray, the mother of Kimani Gray from Brooklyn, to say a few words of our co-founder, Cynthia Howell, who passed last week.
Hi, good day. Hello, everyone. As she said, I was going to mention myself because we didn't get to do the meet and greet. So, as she said, I'm Carol Gray, also the mother of Kimani Gray, who was murdered 2013 in New York City. He was only 16 years old. Before I go into say anything about Cynthia, I would just like to ask for a moment of silence, please, everyone. Acknowledge and recognize my brother, warrior brother, Nicholas Award Jr., Senior, who is not able to make it here today because he's, battling his own situations. We want to send our prayers to him during his, his triumph with sickness. Okay, so Cynthia Howell, known by many, was a very strong leader in stepping up, fighting for freedom, spreading her voice without fear. Cynthia's platform mostly was for us family to stand united, not being like a spectacle or becomes an obstacle of the social, over the internet and all those places where people just put up pictures and make stories about our lives and do documentaries, and certain organizations just gather whenever we have a call-in. We don't want to be, spectacles, as I said, and obstacles around. We want to be recognized, we want our voices. Cynthia wanted our voices to be lifted up and be heard and get freedom, and not just be, not just that a family member life becomes volume because the cases might be a high-profile case. Because, losing your loved ones to the people who's supposed to serve and protect us is high enough volume for any of us.
Yes.
And the pain is no different.
Yes.
So Cynthia wanted to establish that she wanted us to be, like she wanted to set a platform for us families where we would get our own, we would do our own, sponsor our own self with things like, going on trips, and she was one of the people that want to put this together. Remember last year, she was so resilient to doing this. She was calling up family members. And remember, mind you, Cynthia is not a sister, or she's not a daughter. She didn't lose a son, or a brother or sister. She was only a niece. She lost her aunt, Alberta Schools, to, New York NYPD violence. And she stands so affirmative in this. And for me to come and see a person like Cynthia fighting so hard, that doesn't even know the pain of a mother's belly, the pain we feel losing a child, or a sister losing our brother, or a brother losing a sister. Our aunt, you consider as a relative that you're not too, close with, but at the same time, Cynthia was fighting like she lost a child. So just watching Cynthia fight so hard, it makes me become more stronger, more resilient, and more forward to open and speak and lift up my voice. So today, we want to recognize Cynthia because the first meeting last year, she helped to organize, but she never get a chance to make it, being she was battling her own sickness. So, in uplifting Cynthia's voice today, we want to uplift many other members of, that lose a family members that not here with us today, that during the struggle or the triumphant fight for their loved ones, they too have lost their life to other battles. We also have mothers that can't be here today. I want to recognize Beverly Smith. I want to recognize Gina, what's Gina's last name? Gina Best, and there's so many more that's not here being able to make it here today. So today, I want everyone to know my friend, my sister, Cynthia Howell, who was a strong warrior fighter, and she's probably somewhere in this room stressing someone out right now. Uncle Bobby, I know you, I didn't turn the time in her, she probably called you a million times, stressing you out. But trust me, everything she do and everything she say to you, it makes sense. We go places, we go to Baltimore at Freddie Gray's funeral, and we're not supposed to really speak, you know, they give us a podium to just say a few words. And she got up there and she was like, and the governor of this and that, and she's calling out people that, you know, and that's Cynthia, freedom of speech, and never be afraid to let her voice be heard. And I really, really want to take this time to let her know how powerful she was, how she touched our lives. You know, she was my appointment person too. You know, losing a child, it takes a lot from you. And one of my symptoms of losing my son is I develop a short-term memory. So Cynthia would be my appointment book, who would call me up for everything. And she would stress me out. Why don't you call Lisa? Call Uncle Bobby, you know, everyone. I'm sorry to go on, but there's so much that I wish I would share for Cynthia today. Thank you.
We're actually working on bringing up a picture, just so that you'll know, to get the whole context. In 2015, Cynthia and I was invited to be a part of this panel in Detroit at Ally Media Conference, and we were in discussion of various aspects of the movement. And one of the things we noticed between us was that the West Coast and the East Coast wasn't connected. And so Cynthia was really engaged on the East Coast, I was engaged on the West Coast, and we decided to tie that knot then, and then of course that gave birth to the first Families United for Justice that occurred in Detroit last year. And so that's where we are today. So, you have to go, the picture's up, so I'm going to scroll down and let you see the picture as Deanna go ahead and share.
I tell you, this is such a gift to have this type of organization. When my son Andrew Joseph III was killed February 7, 2014, he was 14 years old and went to a school event. And as you all know, children have field trips in school. Never did I know that my child would go to a school event and never come home, only to be encountered by the sheriff department, who profiled him, loaded him into a sheriff paddy wagon, handcuffed and shackled, mugshot photo, and abandoned on a dark highway at night to be killed. Never did I think that I would need a forum such as this. I've traveled many places to many events, and I tell you, I cried at every one of them, because it was so devastating to believe that there was so much suffering in this movement, so much hurt and pain. But when I found Families United for Justice, it was necessary that I become an executive board member, because it gave me life. I knew children had died every day, and I knew tragedy, and I knew that there was heartbreak all over the world. But I knew that I had one son, Andrew, who I loved very much, and he was dear to my heart. And I knew that his death could not be in vain. And if I was to suffer the rest of my days in pain like I do today, that it would have to be a pain that served a purpose. And through that purpose, I came to the Families United for Justice and became a regional member of the Florida division. Because you see, we can't take over the whole world, but we can take care of those parts that we do live in. So as a voice in Florida, we galvanize support and we try to come together as a group to provide healing. You see other organizations such as Mothers Against Drunk Drivers and those type of organizations, they man together. Moms Demand Actions, they're lobbying. They're doing great big things. But why can't we do that as far as families who are impacted by police violence? And that's what today is all about. This is the beginning of something that much greater than we ever envisioned. This belongs to us. This is about where we will create a legacy for future generations, for future families that are coming in. And yes, it's great that we reunite and meet with each other. and we see each other from time to time, but it's much bigger than that. We have work to do, and I have a form that we have, which is a participation evaluation form. When I developed that form, I knew that we created this forum, this weekend event, with intents and mindsets of what we would want to experience as parents and families impacted. But we want to know what your voices are saying as far as this event, and what would you want to see going forward? What message do you want to bring into your communities? How can we effectively help you help your community? How can you come in and help us and become a regional member of your particular area? So in that evaluation form, I want you to read those questions really, really clearly. And if you don't understand them, come to me and ask me. When you're completed with that evaluation form, turn that in, because what we want to do is do an analysis, a survey of what we can do better. Because this is the second year, as you heard. So you know it takes some fine tuning to get this thing right. Because none of us signed up for this. We're not trained professional organizers. We don't have people giving us money for analyzing and analytical studies of what works and what doesn't. So this is trial and error. So those evaluation forms, please turn them in after each session that you go to evaluate, so that we can have information and insight. Okay? So thank you so much, and I'm going to pass the mic.
I've been told to watch the clock, so I will be very, very brief. My name is Marion Gray Hopkins, and my son was Gary Hopkins Jr., who was murdered by the police in 1999, November 27, 1999. So this has been a very, very long fight to me. And all through my journey, I have envisioned this. Very emotional. Deanna said it, and I said this from the beginning. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and I said, we need unity. And it makes me so proud to stand here today to see the folks here in this room. We can do this. There's power in numbers. And it just can't be this event. We have to stand strong in our communities where we reside to say that we're standing up, that enough is enough, that no longer can you take the lives of our people, black, white, you know, it doesn't matter. I know that, you know, it's disproportionate, but the law enforcement are killing our people. And we need to stand up and we need to unite as one. And again, to see this here today is powerful, and let's continue this very trend going forward. I just want to make mention, you guys probably already know, but right outside the hallway near the bookstore, if you walk down the hallway, there's laboratories. We're going to do the best that we can to get you some small breaks, and we ask that when you take these breaks, that please come back on time, you know, because we've already running behind as it is, so that we're going to ask you to come back on time. We'll give you some breaks. And again, the restrooms down the hall. I look forward to sharing Gary's story because I am Gary Hopkins Forrest. Thank you. I am the Mid-Atlantic and beyond region. So.
Hello everyone, my name is Yolanda McNair. My daughter was Aisha Miller. She was killed one day before her 25th birthday, July 8, 2012. I am also president of Post Protect Our Stolen Treasures. I have another member here with me. We are based in multiple states right now. We are opening chapters because this fight has to continue. People have to join together. You have to work together. That's the most important thing. Yes. Put aside your ego. You don't like this, you don't like that. What you do when you get home, but when you out there, represent.
That's right. That's right, sister.
I'm also the Region 6 manager for Families United for Justice. But one thing I want to do right now, I want to ask everybody to say the name Kamani Davis, because on this day, he lost his life 3 years ago to an Ohio State trooper. And his mother is Kimberly Griffin. She's the vice president of Post. So please, everybody say Kamani Davis. Kamani Davis. He needs to be honored. He left a 7-year-old son at home.
Yes.
Everybody here knows the pain. They know that the pain don't go away. No matter how strong you feel or you show yourself to be, you're always in pain. We walk it, we live it, we eat it, we sleep it. It's illness. But when people ask you, how can you keep doing this? I tell them one simple thing. I went through the labor to get her here.
That's right.
I can do this when I sleep.
That's right.
So when people ask me why you fight, they say, so you don't become me. Make people understand that. It's very important. So when you see us up here, when you see us on the video, when you see us on Facebook, don't think that we're doing it for likes. I don't care if you like it. Damn thing I do. Matter of fact, I prefer you didn't. I want to see you in action. Take yourself out of light and put yourself in action. Hi, my name is Victoria Davis. I'm here. My name is Victoria Davis. I'm here stepping in for representing my younger brother, Victor Dempsey, who is the New York regional manager. He couldn't be here. He sends his love. He sends positive messages. So I'm here for him. We are also the siblings of Delron Small, who was killed on July 4th, 2016 in Brooklyn, New York. So I'll just say quickly, because I know that it's a strange space sometimes for siblings to step in. We represent Delron because we don't have parents. And we lost our mom at a very young age, so we step in for him. And I'm standing in for Victor because I'm very proud of him for stepping up and working on organizing families and while I do other stuff for Delron. I just want to thank everyone for coming out, and I don't have anything else to add other than what everyone else said, but thank you, and look forward to doing this whole meet and greet thing.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Corintha. I am here as a supporter of Families United for Justice, and I was introduced to this movement, this organization by Lisa, and so I just want to say thank you. This is hard work, but we do it because we see the struggle, we see the pain, and even though we're on the outside, we're here for you. We're here for you. So I just wanted to say that and acknowledge that. So with that, I just want to really recognize this is an important moment today. We actually have the Wilson family with us today, several members. Petra Wilson and her children are here. And the reason why that's so important is because there are many communities and groups in this country that are killed by the police. One of those groups that doesn't get talked about a lot are Native Americans. So we need to definitely recognize them in this struggle. And we are excited to welcome them, not because of their loss, but we're excited to welcome them as part of this bigger group and this bigger family network. So we say thank you. Exactly. You are not alone. We're here for you. And basically, I just wanted to kind of announce I have a little project going on, and part of why I'm working with Petra and her family is as part of Forced Trajectory Project that works very closely with Families United for Justice. We're excited to launch a Las Vegas chapter down there working with families, and we get new families every day. I don't know if you heard about Junior Lopez recently. We've been in touch with his family. Lisa's been working with them. So it's unfortunately this growing family that's happening in Las Vegas. And as part of that, I'm actually going to work on a documentary to help document Rex Wilson's family and that story. Because what happens with the media, and we're going to talk about it in this workshop coming up, but what happens with the media is you don't get the full story. And people don't legitimize family stories. They go by what the official police report says. And what does the official police report say? Lies. It's all corrupt. It's all corrupt all the time. So we just want to say thank you for being here. We welcome you. We support you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Tyson Amir, nephew, Uncle Bobby. Justice for United, Families United, and of course the American College. It's an honor to be here with you all. And as Mr. Keith said, as Sister Elaine eloquently said, that we stand united to create the change that we need to create in our society so that we no longer have to have these occurrences that visit our communities so often. And so what I would like to share is a piece entitled Between Huey and Malcolm, since we are standing on the sacred ground that gave birth to the Black Panther Party. And I think it fits what's been said already. So this is Between Huey and Malcolm. And it goes, Dr. Huey P. Newton had an epiphany and it said, I don't expect the white media to create positive black male images. So we wouldn't be surprised to see how evening networks accumulate, they network the billions of assassinating the character of our children. They objectively report the news about black lives. Matter of factly, they spin white lies that evolve into black lies about black lives because we don't matter to them only in terms of their bottom line. You see, our work in their eyes is somewhere between felines and pigeons. Y'all, we still less than canines. Because ninjas remember how they sent that boy Mike Vick to prison. It'll be the color of George Zimmerman, a private citizen, and you can legally murder a nigga and walk off scot-free. But Walter Scott can't flee, and Eric Garner can't breathe, Tysha Miller can't sleep, and Oscar Grant can't see his daughter no more. Oh no, this ain't folklore. This is so much more. 7 years ago now, before that, 16, 19, the first time them white beings brought us to these shores. And since then, it's been all out war. You see, the strategies and the tactics have adapted. They went from de jure to de facto, ipso facto. They tormented and attacked us to extinguish the light of black souls. Theirs is a pathological praxis, rooted in a xenophobic, schizophrenic, racially insecure, culturally immature social apparatus, forcing them to concoct a reality which confers to them an unearned status of unmerited advantage to make them feel adequate. In turn, we are turned to thugs and the savages. Whole deck stacked against us, we victims of bell curves, intelligent quotient averages, recipient in jail terms, we residents in these ghetto pants labyrinths, and very few of us can survive the madness. And for those that do, then government issue bullets fly faster than light travels from the sun to our planet. That third rock from the sun. They trying to have me Malcolm in the middle. Nah, I'm Malcolm in the window on third watch, watching over our daughters and sons. Kalashnikov 47 cop for them when they come, and we know they're gonna come. Because for us, this land is a Robert Kirkman graphic novel, for it feeds off the blood of our young. Y'all, we are the walking dead. Just channeling our inner Tyrese, because we ain't destined to make it past the first few letter boxes of the first few sheets. We are akin to proteins and fatty lipids in the belly of the beast. Our appendages are the meat of fleshy mango stuck in teeth to be plucked and sucked in moments after the feast. I let that digest. Yeah. I know these words hit hard to the gut like dysentery, or hard to the brain like religious missionaries colonizing souls and minds. No matter how you reduce it, pain is the protocol. You either die and revoke your past or try to pass as something you're not on that Rachel Doe resolve. But y'all, we can't opt out. We can't drop out, especially when them cops is out. That index eat you when the gun come out. We go to sleep dreaming at night, wishing it would all run out and be replaced by something different when the sun comes out. But the day breaks and the morning is here, and we find ourselves in mourning again. And I don't want to see any more mornings where we're mourning kith and kin. So I guess it means that we back on that Malcolm again. In essence, it only means that we want one thing. We declare our right to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being. in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
And no justice was being served. In 2016, I saw 5 people sitting in front of the Mission Police Department on hunger strike, protesting police violence in San Francisco and the lack of accountability. And so I went to offer my service as a physician to accompany them in their hunger strike, in their desire for justice. When that hunger strike ended, I met with the Justice for Mario Woods Coalition and asked them how we could use our white coat privilege, our work in medicine to serve people who were affected by this violence. And Christopher Mohammed of the Nation of Islam asked me to design a study that would look at what happens to community health if a police killing is the wound and justice is the medicine, and the medicine is withheld from the community. So that question, it took me about a year to assemble the right research team, to design the research tools, and we designed this survey called the Justice Study. And what the survey looks at is not just the mental health aspect, but we know that trauma impacts every aspect of health that are the major killers of Black and Brown and Native American populations in the United States. So with increasing trauma exposure, you have increasing cardiovascular disease, you have increasing diabetes, increasing obesity, increasing depression. And we haven't yet seen a study that ties together what we know is systemic racism in the United States with these health outcomes that we're seeing. We're just thinking that it's just magic that, okay, Black people, maybe they just have worse access to care. And what we're trying to show that, no, this is part of a systemic issue here that is killing Black, Latino, and Indigenous people at alarming rates in the United States through trauma and through the lack of justice. And so this is what we are studying. We took us 8 months to get approval through Santa Clara University and UCSF to do this study, and we launched it in March. And since we launched it, it's been slow getting people to take this study. I left some flyers here. They're up at the front. I encourage you to take them home with you and take this study. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. And tell people in your community to take the study so that we can register your voices. It is anonymous, it is confidential, and our goal is to get 100,000 respondents. Because with 100,000 respondents, we can give policymakers the tools they need to defund policing in the United States as it is, and to move that money into models of community health and community safety. Because what we will show is the myth of policing creating safety is a lie. Communities are being traumatized and terrorized by police. And so if we can show that in the medical literature, we will be arming activists, we will be arming policymakers with the data that they need. So I want to tell you about a study that just came out last week in the Lancet, June 21st, a study that looked at police killings of unarmed Black Americans' effect on the mental health of Black Americans. And they found that looking at data, so they weren't actually interviewing people, they weren't asking for their input, they were just looking at random data set, like a telephone survey that they do. It's called the U.S. Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System from 2013 to 2015. And they found that the mental health days, like poor mental health days, increased by 0 to 14 days for each police killing in the previous 3 months of Black Americans. And they estimated from that police killings of unarmed Black Americans could cause up to 55 million excess poor mental health days for Black Americans. So this study is done through estimation. It is not done through directly inquiring like what we're doing. We're trying to get really rich narrative data about how these killings are affecting not just your mental health, your physical health, your work life, your relationship life, and to show like the 360 effect of what these killings are doing and how it is going to, these killings are keeping people's lives in a diminished status and are not allowing for life achievement to excel, not allowing communities to grow and excel. And so we'd like to put that in the medical literature because we know that affects overall health. So our preliminary data, we have about 500 respondents. This month we launched a national campaign for 3 months. We're working with Black Lives Matter, we're working with Pico Network, we're working with Presente.org, we're working with Sean King, Kamal Bell, we're talking with Boots Riley about doing a little video, but we're trying to get the word out as much as we can to get more respondents of people who are actually impacted. But what we've seen so far is the obvious, and doctors like to prove that chicken soup is good for you, but we need to actually prove it in the medical literature right now so that people can take that to the cities and go, look at what's happening to our health, okay? So we have seen that there has been no government consequences for these killings, and roughly a half of the people who've responded, and 12% of the people said they didn't even know if there was any justice or any government response for the killing. A vast majority, up to 90% of people, said that no justice was served in these cases. And most importantly, over 70% of the people said that the lack of justice was having a negative impact on their lives. And that impact was through these trauma surveys that we're looking at. 90% of the respondents said that their life was impacted by a police killing through the mental health, through their jobs, and through their relationships, with Black, Latinx, and Indigenous people reporting the highest rates of impact. Only 6 survey takers so far have been family members who have directly lost their loved ones. So we need to hear from you because what we're doing in this study is looking at the degrees of relationship to the killing. Is this something you just see on YouTube? Is this something you see on the news? Is this something you saw on the street corner? Or was this someone who was related to you? And your voices will guide, I think, the
In Zimbabwe, they say if you can talk, you can sing. If you can walk, you can dance. By show of hands, how many people know how to clap? All right. We're going to find out. How many people know how to clap in rhythm? We're going to really find out. There's 3 simple beats. I need you to help me out. yourselves a big round of applause. This evening, we first, as we have already done, give honor and praise to that which created us, and we say Ashe, or Amen. We give thanks to, have to acknowledge my brother, who is a leader in this community, who often doesn't get the recognition or the help, because he's probably more interested in the help than the recognition. And that's Bobby, Uncle Bobby. Yeah. Stephen Johnson. Brother, we appreciate you, brother. And as in our tradition, as Minister Keith opened us in prayer and our sister opened us in prayer, this is all part of our tradition. Wherever we come from, we first acknowledge spirit, whatever name we put to that. And the thing that many of us have lost is that we have to acknowledge our ancestors. We have to acknowledge the people on whose shoulders we stand. The people who came before us, to give us the opportunity to do three things tonight: to remember, to reflect, and to renew ourselves. We remember those who went before us, because without them we wouldn't be here. So in this way, we pour a little bit of water to the earth, that the earth would accept it, that water representing life and purity, and we use that Yoruba word that means let it have energy, let it have spirit, and we say Ashe. We pour a little bit of water on the ground, and some of y'all, some of us, at different points in our lives, you might have been on the block, you might have been on the corner, and you had some wine, and you scratched the label and you poured a little bit on the ground for the brothers that weren't here. That's a libation. Anybody done that before? Come on, tell the truth. I already know. I already know. If you're a Christian and you take communion, that's a libation. Because that wine representing the blood of Christ and the bread representing the body is a symbol of the commitment and sacrifice that our ancestors have made. Ashe? See, we're still trying to reconstruct our history, Brother Keith Muhammad. Minister Keith, because we know, our folks, if we understood ourselves, if we understood our roots, if we understood what our folks have gone through, whether you African, whether you Mexican American, whether you Latino, Hispanic, Chicano, Aslan, whether you are Asian Pacific Islander, wherever you're from, European, if you're really looking at your roots, you have to acknowledge your ancestors. So we pour this libation today for all those ancestors who made it possible for us to be, who gave us our education, and we say Ashe. Who gave us our spiritual traditions, we say Ashe. Some of us grew up in small town. I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, in a small town church. And I thought about this driving over here, that my ancestors that I didn't even know made it possible for me to have certain things, and their names are on the cornerstone of that church. So go into any building that's an important building and see whose names are there, because often those are your ancestors. Those are people who built something so you could benefit from it. I just got back from a wonderful time away, and I have a friend who lives in Jamaica, and he grew a mango tree. And this week he gave me some mangoes off that tree, and a beautiful thing he said was that I grew this tree not for myself, but for my children, and for my children's children, and for my children's children's children, because they may not know my name, but they're going to eat some mangoes. Ashe? The work that you are doing in your community is like those mangoes. There's some young people who don't know your name that's going to benefit from it. There's some parents who have lost their children who are going to benefit from your example. And we say Ashe. We pour this libation today for ancestors who were caught up in the slave trade, ancestors whose borders crossed them. My Mexican American brothers and sisters, y'all ain't crossed no borders, border crossed you. You've been here. The Europeans wasn't here, y'all was here. So for them, we say Ashe. We pour libation for our Japanese brothers and sisters who was interned in camps not that long ago, just based on their ancestry, because they were Japanese. And here we go, here our country goes in your name, with your tax dollars, doing the same thing. It's just wrong. And our ancestors taught that it was wrong. So for them, we say Ashe. And I want you to just call the names of your loved ones, call the names of those ones who have left us physically, but their spirit is still here. Their spirit is still giving you energy to do work. Their spirit is still encouraging you. Just call the names. 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 Call them out. Call them out. Call them out. Going all the way back to Emmett Till. Going back to the early days of the tragedy that happened in our folks. So we pour libations so that we will renew ourselves. That we'll leave here tonight with more energy, with more power, with more stories. When you clapped, as I wind this up, you were helping do an ancient tradition. That song, it says, "Hey Jalia." It's in the Arabic. It says, "Hey Jalia, Allah Leka Jalia," that God made music. And it's the song that calls the storytellers. It calls the griots. It calls the jolly. So tonight, as Minister Keith returns and other folks come to the microphone, they're bringing the story of who we are and how we are. We bring our ancestors into it fully, and we say it 3 times, Ashe, 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 Ashe. God bless you.
Came and that we are here breaking bread together, spending this time together, building this unity that we need, and finding and meeting new friends and family that's been impacted just like yourselves, you know. And so for me, this past 2 days has been really, really rewarding, and it tells me why I do what I do. And I'm so thankful that you have expressed that love. You have expressed that love. You know, because this is not about me. It is, I think it was Pastor McBride just said, this is about these children that are coming behind us. And we must equip ourselves, I don't want to be too long-winded, but we must equip ourselves so that we can make this a better place for these babies that are coming behind us. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone. We really appreciate you. Just a brief history of Families United for Justice. There happened to be one on the West Coast, which was something that we were doing. And we actually had our first state Families United for Justice in Oxnard. Everybody who was in Oxnard? Yes. The state of California, right, all came together in Oxnard, California in 2013. And then Love Not Blood campaign, we had our first Families United for Justice in 2014. Is there any families that was here? Because I don't see them. But we had, yeah, they're on the board now for the National Families United for Justice. But there was also Nisa and Yolanda on the East Coast. Cynthia Howe on the East Coast. We were Families United for Justice, FOR. They was Families United for Justice with the FO. But there was minds coming together to do the same thing. So in last year, we came together to bring the East and the West Coast together so we could unite and build this united front with families all over the country. And so that's where we are. This is our second annual. Last year was in Detroit, sponsored by Allied Media and, Families United for Justice, but really was only 4 people that raised all the money. But this year, we have an executive board, right? And so they were able to, last year was a blessing. I'm going to say this. Last year, mainly these 2, but 3 other people raised over $30,000, right? And they paid for everybody to come to Detroit and paid for their hotel. This year was a little different. We had 9 regions, and those regions raised money to bring the families here. And so next year we're going to do better because we didn't have no money in the pot to pay for stuff when people got here. But it all worked out. So it's a process, right? So thank you all. I just want to share a little history. And Cynthia Howe, she passed away before she could even see it, or she wasn't able to participate really last year. But we still honor her work and her word and her life. And so Families United for Justice, East Coast, West Coast, Tupac and Biggie. Yes. Together.
Peace and blessings, families. It's just, my name is Nisa, if you don't know me. I've been doing this work since 2009. That's when I met my first families, and it's been such a powerful experience. this whole decade, and I've known Uncle Bobby since 2011. 2010, that's right, 2010. Oja and I, my partner, Oja, who's behind me, excuse me, my glasses, had a very Asian moment just there. So, we organized a New York Families panel, October 22nd Coalition panel in New York in 2011. Nicholas Hayward, who was not able to make it this year, he was there last year. He was there. Him and Miss Baez have been fighting since 1994. Who else was on that panel? I don't believe anyone else was on that panel, but Uncle Bobby was on that panel. That was 2010, September 14th, I remember, yes. And that was our first time meeting Uncle Bobby and feeling his strength and his spirit that so many other families also embolden within themselves. And it's just been so powerful to see people become empowered in this movement and know that they're not alone. And it brings me a lot of peace, because I do feel, even though I'm not a family member, I do feel a lot of pain. And having lost Cynthia last year, who was a very dear friend, of mine, she poured her heart and soul into this movement. And I told her in my heart that I would continue this movement of bringing families together so that we can really, truly fight this united, because we can't fight. Every case is on its own, like inch by inch, right? But when you fight collectively, we can make greater gains together, and every inch of justice that we get is worth it. So thank you all for teaching us, folks who are not impacted, what it's like to be in your shoes as much as you can. And thank you for being leaders in all of your communities. And I hope you take back that with yourselves when you go back to your communities. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. I'm just honored to be here in the presence of all of you. I just want to say a few words about Cynthia. Cynthia was feisty as hell, excuse my language. And we would sit down and we would just talk, and we would talk about where we are right now, and and where we're going to go. And I know she's looking down on us today with a huge, huge smile on her face to know that this is coming to pass and that we're going to continue to grow, because what we have here, you're going to go back and you're going to share it with another and another and another. And before you know, we're going to have all the families we know have been impacted over the many, many years will be at an event where we will be standing united in solidarity, true unity. And so again, I'm just honored to be here. God, I'm kind of lost of words, and that's unusual. Oh, my name is Marion Gray Hopkins, and I'm from Maryland. I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And I've been on the front line fighting since 2000. My son, Gary Hopkins Jr., was murdered in 1999. But, when you're first going through, you don't have the strength to barely get your head up. But when I did bring my head up, I vowed that Gary's life, nor anyone else's life that had been impacted by police brutality, would be in vain. And I heard yesterday when Kat Brooks talked yesterday, and the successes have been small. But I know that successes will be huge in the future, because again, we're powerful in numbers. And I know the small successes will become bigger and bigger and bigger. And so again, I want to thank all of you for being here and to allow us to continue to grow. And I want to say to Cynthia again, we've done it. We've done it, because, when I first started in the movement, I was like, they got this Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and, and we were so divided. And it's still division. I want you all to know it's still there. But I think we can break these walls down and remove the division and become united as we should be. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Oja, DJ Oja Vincent. And I may have kissed some of you on the cheek. If I offended you, I'm sorry. My parents are from Haiti. No, I'm not joking, I'm serious. But it's because all of you are family to me, No offense if it offended you, if that happened. I've been trying to stop that. but it's like stopping eating rice and beans, and it's like stopping resisting. Because I'll tell you something, I was raised with two different cultures, Haitian culture and hip hop culture. I'm a DJ, first B-boy. And the hip hop culture is all about resistance, and Haitian culture is all about resistance, okay? On our flag in Haiti, it says, Unité fait la force. And that means there's strength in unity. The main motto of Jean-Jacques Dessalines and the generals that rose up for revolution and human rights in the West to create IAT, free, independent, sovereign nation, would say, Liberté ou la mort. It means freedom or death, the original saying, not the one that they appropriated up here. And this is real. I mean, it was a revolution. It's about revolution. And that's what this is right here, is revolution. You understand? Revolution is about agency. And that's what's happening here, is that people are taking agency and demanding accountability. And this is what creates an intentional family. And so I'm honored to be in your guys' presence, to be working to support. And like I said it before, I'm not a family member, but I had a best friend that was killed. And so I can't relate directly, but I kind of understand some of the emotions that folks go through. And so we look to you guys for great inspiration, and you've been that. In this 3 days, we've really seen some things that have been amazing. And I want to say I'm extremely proud of the team that we brought from Las Vegas with us. I want to acknowledge them, the Force Trajectory Project. I also want to acknowledge Us Everywhere for the support, because they support us in trying to support y'all. And we are actively trying to pass this tradition of supporting community in taking agency and making changes through time. And that's what our team represents. So if you see people coming around taking photos with microphones and stuff like that, I know some people showed up a little bit later than the first day. Just know that these folks are with us. It's called the Force Trajectory Project. We are a sister organization with Families United for Justice. And we're honored, to be on the calls that led up to this event. We're honored to be a part of this organizing, and we salute you guys. So I want you to give yourselves a great hand. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. They told me I wasn't getting out of this, so okay. My name is Yolanda McNair, for those of you who just got here and don't know who I am. I'm the mother of Adacia Miller, a beautiful young lady who was killed one day before her 25th birthday. A police officer spent 2.5 months on the desk and went right back out on the street like nothing happened. Except for he forgot to Google me. I'm proud to be up here with these people. And as sad as it is, I'm proud to be looking at all of you. I'm from Detroit. A lot of times we get to question, what difference will it make? Every time we come together, we make a difference. Whether it be somebody walking by just a little bit curious as to what the heck all those people are over there doing. The people that stop and their hearts are touched in such a way that they can't do anything but go home and testify for us. We do this because our hearts are hurt, and there's no way to fix that, no way to heal it. Nothing in this world anybody could say is going to make it better. But we have to make a change. Every day that we get up and we do what we do, we're making a change. It's a slow process. I told the gentleman today, it's a big wall. But every time we knock a little chunk out of it, we did something. So don't deny yourself your pain. That's your energy. That's your drive. But when you go home, each one reach one. Each one teach one. So that they don't join us at this table.
I'll keep it short because I know everybody's hungry. I just wanted to say what an honor and a privilege it is to be here with all of you today. Is in doing this work, I've learned so much, not just about myself, but about each of you and your struggle. And what you go through, it's as hard and as difficult as it is, it's inspiring to see you come through that pain. And really, you know, we hear a lot about, you know, using that pain to empower yourselves and be leaders in your communities, and that's inspiring. And so I just want to thank you, and I want you to say, keep going, keep doing it, because you don't know who you're touching. You don't know who you're inspiring. And unfortunately, this awful, awful, corrupt system that we have in place, this is going to continue to keep happening until we keep fighting, because we have to keep fighting against it, because we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. And so I just want to say thank you, and I want to say just keep going, because, you know, it's worth it. Even the small victories are worth it. So thank you. You're inspiring all of us.
Bearers of witness for Allah, even though it be against your own selves, or your parents or near relatives. Whether he be rich or poor, Allah has a better right over them both. So follow not your low desires, lest you deviate. And if you distort or turn away from truth, surely Allah is ever aware of what you do. Another place, Allah says very clearly of those who march in the journey for justice, surely Allah loves the doers of justice. And so, family, let us stay the course. We're in the journey for justice. The little book I put together was actually inspired by the late, great Johnny Cochran. And I never realized that coming into my college life that we would cross paths. As I entered California State University in Long Beach as a football player, the semester before I arrived, a football player by the name of Ron Settles was slain by the Signal Hill Police, which is right next door to Long Beach, and he was a student at Long Beach State. And when I sat down with the football coaches to learn how I could become involved as a college football player, the brother coach could not bring himself to talk with us much about football because he was in mourning over the loss of Ron Settles in what was expected to be a common traffic stop. Ron Settles lost his life, and Johnny Cochran stepped up and stepped in defense of his family, and he later would write a book called The Journey for Justice. And it never dawned on me until I met Brother Johnny, and he gave me a copy of his book, and I began to read that book, how close these cases are to each and every one of us. And when we stood in defense of the family of Oscar Grant, my son was a high school senior that had been accepted to UC Berkeley at 16 years of age. And when the case began to unfold, my son, who rode to school with me every day of his life because I was his school teacher, I was the principal at his school. But when he had to go to UC Berkeley, he would ride with me into Oakland, where I would deliver him to the BART station. And the BART station that I delivered to him to daily was the Fruitvale BART station. And you have to know that every day I dropped him off and picked him up, I never knew what would happen on those trains. And so we thank you for sacrificing and showing your love for one another. It's critically important that the parents of these that have lost their loved ones, the families and supporters of these that have lost their loved ones, remain united. Do not allow any suggestion to divide you one from another. This is not a competition over whose child's case was victorious, because no other parent here was responsible for the injustices that you have suffered. This is not about whose child gets the front page and whose child doesn't meet a page, because if we're waiting on Satan to express our needs, they will never go expressed. Remain united. The power is in our unity. The power is in our organization. In closing, the minister said to us that organization is more important than truth. He said, because an organized lie has more power than disorganized truth. That's right. Our obligation together as families, as community is, let's get organized and go after justice for our people. May Allah bless and keep you. Thank you for listening as I greet you. Assalamu alaikum.
I saw her here. I said, touch your neighbor. That is the great Stephanie Morales. Right, now you talking about your superwoman up in this joint, man. This is one of the best prosecutors in the country, y'all. And I say that without any equivocation, without any hesitation. Last year, we were approached by some national leaders. Our work across the country is attempting to hire or elect more non-white male prosecutors. Come on now. I think upwards of 95, 96% of all prosecutors in the United States are white males. And that means that when our loved ones are killed by the police, we don't have folks in that accountability seat who can resonate with our pain. When we have interpersonal violence in our communities, we don't have someone in that seat who can resonate with our pain. And so we have been working on a lot of campaigns across the country to help make sure that we can get more prosecutors who are black and brown, particularly women, elected. And this sister had gotten elected, and she was one of the only prosecutors in the country to convict a individual for killing an unarmed black person. And when we were called to come meet with her for her re-election campaign, I was trying to get some of these preachers, amen, to do some work. Somebody said, this woman's a lawyer, an accomplished lawyer, and they just got some random person from the military to run against her, and she had to fight in order to win, and thank God she won. That's right. And so we are so blessed to have her here, y'all. I think she's one of the rising stars in the work to make sure that we have a reformed criminal justice system. Her work, her voice, her brilliance is being spread all across the country. She was just at an event last week, I think, and one of my young comrades told me that Stephanie Morales burnt the house down. I said, touch your baby, that girl is getting around. And little do I know she'd be here in our hometown. So, what I'm going to ask you all to do is to please stand to your feet and let's give her Families United for Justice welcome. She is the Commonwealth Attorney, the lead law enforcement officer for the Portsmouth, Virginia. Let's welcome Stephanie Morales, everybody. Come on.
So he set me up, didn't he? He up here telling y'all I burned the house down? What kind of stuff is that? Well, good evening. I have to move around because I have so much excited energy. Being here with you all, Uncle Bobby, and where's Aunt B? You all don't understand how it touched my spirit for you to invite me here to speak to this group. Because the time that I spent with some of these amazing ladies over here in New York, when I met with these families that were impacted by police brutality for the first time, in a setting where there were prosecutors, other law enforcement, and then their voices were at the table, was one of the most profound moments that I had ever had in my career, even after doing the work that I did on this case. And so being able to come here and see even more of you and just hear you tell your stories about what happened, and to just see you share with each other about the work that you do and what you go through, that means something to me. And so I thank you for that before I even get started, for giving me this opportunity. So where is Mr. Earl Lewis? Where is he? Everybody look at Earl Lewis back there. Mr. Lewis is the family representative who stood up with me the entire time for his family when his cousin, Mr. William Chapman, who was only 18 years old, was shot and killed by the police officer in my city. And I want you all to hear William's story, because I don't think it would be appropriate for me to be here and just talk about, the outcome of the case without letting you know everything that we went through as a community and that this family went through before we got to that point. So as you heard, I was elected, previously in 2015, I was the first woman to be elected Commonwealth Attorney in my city. It was so exciting. At the time to be elected, I was 31 years old. I have 4 children. At the time, my daughters were 2. And now my twins, they're now 5. My sons are 13 and 12. And it was just exciting. It was all positive. I ran on a platform and a vision from my office of really embracing the youth in our community and to helping people who had a difficult time come back on the right track and to just overall fairly and diligently prosecute in a way that I refer to as community prosecution. And so it was just all positive. Everything was great. Little did I know, 3 months into my first term, we were going to have an incident that was going to take this young man away from his mother, his family, and his community. And when that thing happened on April 24th of 2015, the first thing I did was went straight to the scene and immediately took over. I'm born and raised in Portsmouth, Virginia, where I serve. That's number one. So this isn't, somewhere where I came in. I don't like when people just show up places and are like, you know what, let me come in here and clean this up and then I get to turn around and go home. I don't think so. That's my home. That's where I was born and raised. That's where I got the value system that I hold today. And so, it was just on my spirit. I said, you know what, I need to show up. I need to make sure that the state police is going to come in and do this investigation. And I need to make sure that this investigation is going to be done in the right way so that I can have all the information I need to make an evaluation based on the facts and the law, period. And I tell people all the time, you may not be happy with me, but what you can expect is for me to be honest with you and straightforward about what's going on. And so, that sounds good, doesn't it? But let me tell y'all what was going on at the same time that my case was going on. Baltimore was happening with Freddie Gray. And my dear sister Marilyn Mosby, I'm so glad she got reelected. But however, we handled it completely differently. And that's something that I respect. As a prosecutor, you have to do what you think is right, and your people elect you to that position to do what you think is right for your community. And for me, I said, you know what, this case is going to be tried in the courtroom if that's where we get. But right now I'm focusing on getting this investigation complete to make sure I have all the necessary tools that I need before I decide whether or not I'm going to go to grand jury or whether I'm going to approach this family with a report and talk to them about what happened. So, fast forward from April to September, I ended up, I got the completed results of the investigation after going back to the state police multiple times and asking them to redo things and stand in their faces. I know they couldn't stand me, but I had to make sure that everything was in place. And once we got to that point, I said, I'm going to present this indictment to the grand jury. And Mr. Lewis, you remember that when I told you all that we were going to present the indictment to the grand jury? So we were all nervous. I actually told the public, this is going to the grand jury, okay? Because I believe in, trying to give as much information as you can without hampering an investigation or a prosecution. Even if I have to tell the community there's nothing I can release to you, but this is where we are in the process, that's a part of the accountability. Just letting your people know and the family know, we are on this. We are working. It's not just sitting here waiting on you all to stop paying attention. So we went on to the grand jury, we got the indictment, and then, the real stuff began. It was at that point where Mr. Lewis would just pop up at my office whenever he got ready. And I had a policy that when Mr. Lewis show up, I stop what I'm doing and I go talk to Mr. Lewis. Because he was there for his family. And or 8 motions that day. And I don't know if you figured this out already or not, but as you can see, I prosecuted this case myself. And I felt like as the elected prosecutor, and this being the first time this happened under my administration, I had to prove to my community and my team of prosecutors who are going in court every single day prosecuting, I'm asking them to do things the right way, that I'm not going to ask anything of you that I will not do myself. And so I prosecuted this case with my chief deputy, and then we ended up adding another young man onto the team who had done a lot of research work with us. And Mr. Lewis would come in every time before we were going to go to court and say, okay, what's the motions? What are we doing? And I would explain to him what was, what the motions were about and what we were going for. And, I won't say it was an easy process. We had challenges. We had a local organization that you would think would have just had my back. Special prosecutor. Okay, do you know who does special prosecutions around here? Right. Have you looked around at the neighboring jurisdictions? Have you seen any convictions come out of any of these neighboring jurisdictions? Right. Have you seen any reports being released to let the public know why you decided not to bring charges in any of these jurisdictions? Or you just saying it because you think it sounds good? And so we went through some things. It was a fight. I was 31 years old, and there was all this attention on me and who I was and who the defense team was. And this, defense attorney had a reputation, for being able to get people off. You know how we talk about what lawyers can get somebody off in the streets? Same thing, certain communities have a reputation for talking about who can get police off, unfortunately. And so this person had a reputation for being a strong attorney. And, leading up to the trial, there were profiles that were done on who were the players involved in the case, who were the attorneys. And it was real interesting because once we went through that week-long trial and after that verdict came back, you think they did any profiles after that conviction? Come on now. No, we don't want to talk about it anymore. And that's one of the reasons why, as much as I'm about the work and not talking, I will come and talk and spread the word that if you fight, these convictions can be had. Justice can be done. I'm tired of hearing prosecutors tell this narrative that we can't do it. The law is set up that we want to do something, but the way the law is, we can't do it.
Come on now.
Try.
Come on now.
Let me see you try. Let me see you try. Because at 31 years old, 3 months into my first term, I can step up and try to do my very best to make sure we get a complete and full investigation that I can use to make a good charging decision, whatever that may be. And I can try to keep my community informed and embrace that family and be there for them. That's a hell of a step in the right direction. And I know we got pastors in the room, so I'm sorry. But, it's just that major to me. I think we have to start somewhere, and a part of that is recognizing that we got to stop as prosecutors selling this story that we can't do stuff. Because when, a homicide happens in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we find a suspect, we're not giving them an opportunity to review the video of the surveillance footage.
Talk about it.
We're not giving them an opportunity to have 72 hours before they talk to us about what happened. We want to talk to them right now. We're not showing you no surveillance footage. So, I just want to make sure that people understand that when the person has the fight in them, you at least have a measure of the ability to try to get some things done.
Yes.
But until we start making progress in the right direction by getting the right people in office, nothing's going to happen. Now, let me talk to you about something that sounds completely unrelated, but it's not. I have this program. It's called the Future Leaders Initiative. And we just had 25 girls in my office the day before yesterday. 25 young ladies, and we do young ladies, young men from 9 years old all the way up through law school, interns, shadows, and fellows. And I've had close to 200 to come and be mentees of mine in the office since I took office in 2015. We have programming in the school system. Do y'all know I talked to them about this case? I don't just bring them in and say, oh, I'm a lawyer, I went to law school. No, I talked to them about the fact that I went to law school, and as I was telling my sister Victoria, who's going to be coming down behind me going to law school, right?
Come on now. Come on.
Right? And with the bun in the oven, as I told her, when I started law school at William & Mary, I had 2 sons. They were 5 months and 1.5. And when I took my LSAT, the test to get into the entrance into law school, I looked just like Victoria. I had to turn my desk sideways in Hampton University to take that test. And so I share with those young people, not to tell them, to make things difficult for themselves, but just to say, Everybody does not get things handed to them. Everybody does not, just automatically have opportunities created for them. Some of us have to fight. Most of us have to fight. Most of us do have some sort of a support system, but some of us don't have a support system at all, and some of us don't have the same support system that other people do. And so what it's really about is I want these young people with these sponges for brains to see that somebody who came from exactly where they came from was able to rise to a position of power. And yes, I'm not afraid to say it, because DAs do have power. For so many years, everybody just ignored DA races. We were just talking about this at the table. 50 years, I think. Yes. A DA was running unopposed out here. Yes. Everybody ignoring the DA's office, not realizing that's one of the most powerful positions that you have in your community. I want these young people to see the face of what prosecution can look like. And not only that, I want these young people to see them the way I see them. The future leaders who are going to come and take over when I move out the way. Because yes, I'm going to move out the way. I'm not going to be 85 years old, still trying to run things. Okay? But what you all have to do with what I just told you is you got to do the same thing. And I'm not just talking about getting in groups like this together. I'm talking about using your voice at organizations like what I talked about, where I met these ladies. Because prosecutors need to hear your voices. Police need to hear your voices. Children in the communities need to hear your voices. Churches need to hear your voices. Everybody needs to be touched by you and your stories. This is true. Because there's nobody who can explain it like even me. I can explain to you what I went through with this case. I can explain to you what I went through holding Miss Sally's hand. I can explain to you what it felt like to be partners with Mr. Lewis throughout the course of this trial and beyond. We had an appeal process. We even went to that together. My office wasn't involved. The Attorney General's office was involved. Mr. Lewis, I, and my administrator in my office, we went to the Court of Appeals to watch this case together. But there's nobody who can explain what this feels like you all. And people need to experience that. I'm sorry, it may feel strange at first, to venture away from this circle. But until we get people, and we got to start earlier. Once people get to a certain age, it's kind of hard to reach them. If we really want to think about making a difference, we got to go back. We got to start with the younger generation. We really have to start instilling values in them. There is a complete disregard for human life at every level. In our communities, in our government. But what I even tell people when I go into prisons, because I do work in prisons, and I talk to the people who are incarcerated about their release process and how difficult it's going to be. And I say to them, the legislature don't want to hear from me. I'm just another politician as far as they're concerned. They need to hear from you, the people who are experiencing these things, when they think about how the laws they make affect people's lives. And so if you don't take anything away from what I'm saying, I want you all to understand the power of your voices. And how politicians and elected officials, DAs like me, we talk all the time and it goes in one ear and out the other. Do not be afraid to share your story. And I'm going to say this too. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Be prepared. Get your 2-minute version together. Yeah, and I know I'm talking a lot, so what? I know I'm running my mouth and I'm telling y'all to, but seriously, you're in a place, you're coming from a place of emotion. It's very difficult. And what you don't want is for people to get lost in your emotion and not hear what you have to say. And so I heard something where you said that we needed to be organized, right? You said an organized lie has more power than a disorganized truth. Same is true for telling your story. If you cannot concisely relay what is happening and what you want to happen, people will get lost. They will miss what you're trying to say. And I just sat at the park today. You know, I spent some time with my stepmother because my father lived out here before he passed away. And then I came over and I just sat down. Like, some of y'all may have seen me, some of you may not. I had on a hat, I had on some tights. You know, I was just creeping. And, you know, I just sat down, little Indian style on the little block. And I was listening to your stories. I was just listening to what you had to say. And it was so touching. And I said, you know what? Everybody needs to hear these stories in some form. But we must be organized about how we present this information, because this is too important for us to not do this the right way. So what did y'all, can y'all tell, like, you know, I just do this exercise from time to time. Can y'all tell, like, what was on my report card when I was little? Can anybody tell what was on my report card when I was a little girl?
Talk too much.
Talkative. Every single report card. You got that right away. Did you have it on yours too? Yeah. Okay. I thought so. She felt that. She was like, talk too much. Okay, so that said, I could talk forever. I'm not going to do it. Thank you. Thank you. Look, and then my mommy comes out too. That's why I'm like, look, when y'all go to, you know, get it right. Let's get the 2-minute drill together. But seriously, just going back, you know, wanting to talk about some of the things in closing. You know, I won't keep you all too much longer. But just sharing, you know, some of the things that really concern me. I'll share something with you that happened recently. There was an article that was done on a shooting that happened in my jurisdiction where a young man was shot. And he lived, you know, fortunately in this situation. And he was, you know, from what the video showed that was released, he was running away. And I still have this under investigation, so I can't say but so much. But what I will say is this. I saw an article because one of my constituents called me and was like, yo, you're not going to believe what's in this article. I'm just going to, you know, brace yourself because you're not going to like it. So I read the article and it says, you know, this is in, you know, Virginia, and the prosecutor, her name is Stephanie Morales, and we all know that, you know, just like everybody else, I can, you know, just trust me, nothing's going to happen. And I was like, Beyonce, you must not know about me. Like, hold up. What's Stephanie Morales' assistant he's talking about? Because he can't be talking about me, you know, and I was hot, you know, but that's the struggle that I go through with, you know, this information about this case not getting the attention that it actually needed. Because people want to wallow in that story that it can't be done. The prosecutor didn't do it right. The prosecutor didn't investigate it. They ignored it. We think the prosecutor took it to the grand jury and signaled that they didn't want an indictment. You know, all of these narratives that actually happen, I'm not discounting that because that is some of your reality. However, when it actually goes the way it should go, we need to tell that story too, because there's this little thing called hope that we all need. And without really sharing information when we have it about some of these outcomes that are more favorable, because of course, you know, we would have liked to have gotten more. We got 2.5 years. He is in state prison now. He appealed it. And was his appeal denied on the anniversary of Williams' passing? Okay, and so it was the 3-year anniversary of Williams' passing, and the denial from the Court of Appeals came out that day. And it was just, I mean, it blew me away. I'm like, wow, okay, today? It was amazing. And, you know, this is the types of things that we'll do a media release to make sure that we share the information. Our community knows. Our young people know. When I go into high school and I talk to them about it, they're like, oh, that's you? Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm right here. You know, I went to your high school. I'm standing in your classroom because your teacher called me on my cell phone and said, I need you to come talk to my class tomorrow with that short notice. And so really making sure that you all have a presence. You're not going to have it to be done right every single time, as you all know. Most of the time, you know, it hasn't been done the right way. But what you all can do is you can be that catalyst for making a difference. And somebody talked about chipping away at a wall. If you think about how many people are in this room, if you individually make it your business that you're going to go to a school once every 6 months, and you're going to reach as many young people as you can, you do not know what interest you've sparked in the mind of a young person that could shift the trajectory for our entire nation. And this is the last thing I'm gonna tell y'all. Going back to my childhood one more time. I was 6 years old when I decided I wanted to be an attorney. 6 years old. My mother took me to observe in court. And there was a judge on the bench. He was an African American man. His name was Archie Elliott. And yeah. We'll talk later. He's still kicking. So I went and I was little. I remember I saw action, you know, and remember what I said about my report card, right? I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's moving around. People are talking. I love it. This is what I want to do. And it stuck. I had no attorneys in my family. Both my parents were college educated. They went to Norfolk State University, behold the green and gold. Nobody from Norfolk State here? On the West Coast? Okay. All right, well, whatever. Always get an exciting response back home. Wonderful HBCU, and I happened to be Miss Norfolk State University when I was there. Yeah. Okay. So y'all like, all right, I got a little bit of response on that one. Okay. But seriously, both my parents went there, and they were college educated, but not a single attorney in my family. Not one. And so Judge Elliott would say to my mother, bring your daughter to court, let her come watch, whatever. If my mother had not brought me to court, I don't know if I would have ever been introduced to the law. I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know where I would be. I don't know what would have happened, you know, if William had been in that position again and I wasn't there. My city could be on fire. Oh, yeah. And we didn't have those kind of issues. And so I just want you never to forget the value that you have within you and the ability to potentially change everything just by taking a minute and not just sharing your story about this, but who works? Everybody raise your hand if you work. Okay? So you all work. You all have something to contribute to the life of a young person too. So as you go and share this story, introduce them to what you do. If you're an entrepreneur, whatever you do, spark that interest in the life of a young person, because that also can keep them on the right track and keep them away from this system in a negative manner. We need to have positivity for our young people, but we also need them to be knowledgeable and aware of what's going on and to be critical thinkers. So with all that being said, I just want to say I love all of you. I am extremely proud of you. It is beyond beautiful that you would come here and hold hands together and share your stories with each other in the world to really try to make a difference on behalf of your loved ones. Because experiencing loss, and I've experienced loss, but never having someone taken away from me by police violence. But just experiencing loss and understanding what that feels like, you can be in a very broken place, which makes it extremely difficult to get anything done. So for you all to stand strong and come here and uplift each other to really try to make a difference, it's very special. Don't ever forget it. And I just want to say I'm always here. I will continue to be fighting and doing this work. So if you don't have somebody in your area that's fighting, just remember Little Portsmouth, Virginia. There's somebody in Portsmouth, Virginia who is fighting for all of us to try to make sure that we set the example that things can be accomplished. It may not always go this way. It may not always be easy, and it wasn't easy the last time. But if we continue to fight, and that is what we must have in us, is fight, we will definitely continue to move in the right direction. And progress is what we're looking for. So that being said, anybody who wants to talk to me, you can just walk up to me. I'm not a diva. And you know, I thoroughly enjoyed this time, and I thank every last one of you for your attention.
If anything, I'm there. You know, he does so much for our community, so I just appreciate you for even reaching out. As an artist, listen, here in Oakland, you know what I'm saying, I've always wanted to make music to be the inspiration for people, you know what I'm saying, who're fighting and going through whatever they're going through in their life, you know, whether you're losing people, going through personal struggles. So that's my mission and my goal is to make music to inspire and push you, so I hope you find inspiration in these words and this music. And also you can vibe out and have a good time, so is that right? We gotta uplift each other. One day we gon' make it. I know one day we gon' have just what we're fighting for, just what we've been fighting for. They can't take this love from us. They can't take this love from us. It's deeper than they know. Yes, it's deeper than they know. Hey, and my soul has no limitations. My life is priceless. My faith is endless, and I believe in truth. As long as justice escapes us, we live for the struggle. And we keep holding on. And we keep pushing on. And let me tell you, y'all, I know one day we gon' make it. I know one day we gon' have just what we're fighting for, just what we've been fighting for. They can't take this love from us. They can't take this love from us. It's deeper than they know. Yes, it's deeper than they know. Then clap your hands, come on. If you're feeling alright, say, oh yeah. And if you're ready to feel the love today, to say, oh yeah. And if you're living in the struggle, you got hope for life, to say, oh yeah. And giving love to the people around, somebody say, oh yeah. I sacrificed for this purpose when no one understood. I was born for this purpose. Yeah, you gave my life meaning even when I had nothing. You made me feel worthy. Yeah, you stood right beside me like strength and righteousness, the consciousness that guides me. We keep holding on. We keep pushing on. Hey. Gave all my faults, all possibilities, and all of my failures. Ever so patient, knew my potential was worth every moment. Yeah, you believed in me when they doubted, gave me relentless strength to exceed all the expectations. Yo, we keep holding on, and we keep pushing on. And let me tell you, y'all, I know one day we gon' make it. I know one day we gon' have just what we're fighting for, just what we've been fighting for. You gotta believe that they can't take this love from us. They can't take real love from us. It's deeper than they know. Yes, it's deeper than they know. They got me falling out. I know one day we gon' make it. I know one day we gon' have just what we're fighting for, just what we've been fighting for, everything we're fighting for. They can't take this love from us. They can't take this love from us. It's deeper than they know. Yes, it's deeper than they know. You got me falling now.